And we are back with another Let's Talk About It live stream. I think we're on number 8, 9. So I normally start these off discussing things that have happened cybersecurity wise in the last week, since we did the last one. So the first thing that we're going to discuss that is in the news is critical RCE bug found in 92,000 D-Link NAS devices. Let me transition this in. So this article's on Bleeping Computer. There's 4 network attached storage devices from D-Link which are end of life, from like 2017 to 2020, I think, if I recall correctly. And there's a remote code execution vulnerability in them. So let's take a look at the NAS devices just in case you have one. So we've got the models up. So it is the DNS 320L, DNS 325, DNS 327L, and DNS 340L. So yeah, the DNS 325 is end of life since 2017. 327 and 320L are both end of life in 2020, and DNS 340L is end of life 2019. There's no firmware fix available because they are end of life, and D-Link's recommendation is to retire and replace these devices. Right, so let's take a look at what this is exactly. So a security researcher, let me find the thing 1 second. Just find that page. Has made all of this information available on GitHub. So command injection and backdoor account in D-Link NAS devices. So there's a vulnerability within this NAS_sharing.cgi script, which is available just by accessing the URL. And with this, it comes with a backdoor, which is facilitated by hard-coded credentials, and a command injection vulnerability via the system parameter. So the security researcher, I'll leave a link to this below, NetSecFish, has released all this information, including how to find these devices. Not sure that was a good idea. Releasing all this information. So again, he's listed the affected devices, the NS320L version 1. It doesn't matter, they're all affected anyway. So version 1.11, 1.03, 1.01. Vulnerability details. Backdoor through username and password exposure. This request parameter for a username. So you just put user equals message bus on the command line, on the URL, and then there's no password. That will allow unauthorized access without proper authentication. So this user message bus is a bit of a strange user, and the NAS sharing, I'm guessing it's for some kind of clustering the NAS devices. So on security now, Steve Gibson addressed it and said that this was probably for, let's say, some form of clustering the NAS devices and maybe shouldn't have been exposed on the WAN as an accident, whichever it is, a vulnerability. And then the command injection through the system parameter, which is just a base 64 encoded value that you want to run. And he's listed exactly how you can execute commands, as well as how to find them. These are vulnerable NAS devices. So the successful exploitation of this vulnerability could allow an attacker to execute arbitrary commands on a system, leading to unauthorized access to sensitive information. So Fix recommendation, apply patches and updates from the manufacturer. There isn't any. D-Link have said that these devices are dead and no longer supported. There's no reason to expose a NAS on the internet at all, unless you're running a web server, a mail server, a VPN, or some kind of honeypot. You have no reason to pretty much expose those services to the internet. If you need access to a NAS remotely, then use a VPN. The easiest one to set up is probably Tailscale. If you've got a crappy router from your ISP, then you can always opt for using something like OpenSense or pfSense, which support VPNs. You expose your VPN port so you can obviously connect to it from wherever you are, and then once you're connected, you can access those devices securely. It's not just NAS devices that you shouldn't expose. You also shouldn't expose CCTV devices. I'll just stick my phone on silent a minute because I forgot. So a lot of companies installing CCTV will forward ports and things to the CCTV device. Again, this is just really bad practice because many CCTV devices don't get firmware updates and people just leave them exposed. Stick them behind a VPN. Use WireGuard, use Tailscale, and securely access them that way. You've got zero reason to expose these devices. We have Gareth with us. Hey Gareth, how's it going? He's with us for 20 or so. I'm not sure how long we're going to go on for with this. I'm literally just going to cover some of the things that have made the news recently and take it from there because I do have somewhere to be. But thank you for joining us, Gareth. Gareth runs a tech tag group and very active in that community. So yeah, back to these devices. Don't expose them. You shouldn't have any ports. If you don't need to expose the service to the internet, don't. If you need to access internal services on your network, use a VPN or something along those lines. Don't be opening ports and forwarding them to CCTV devices or whatever, NAS systems. Just don't expose them. Let me transition this back 1 second. Okay. So I wanted to discuss that. Now, according to Steve Gibson and the research he's done on it, this security researcher didn't provide D-Link. Like, if you're going to responsibly disclose something, you give like 90 days or something to allow the manufacturers to respond. In this case, apparently that wasn't done. Yeah, if you're going to be a bug reporter, do it responsibly and at least give people a chance. This just exposed 92,000 devices to malicious people, really. Among that, let me just close these off. So, Patch Tuesday was brought out, obviously on Tuesday, where Microsoft released, if you can see it. So, Microsoft released updates which fix a massive 150 flaws, 147. Some of them are 0 days. Yeah, so if you've not updated your Windows devices, you're probably going to want to do that. So the update for a record number of flaws, which fixes about 150 for Windows 11, so 23H2, 22H2, 21H2. So make sure your system's up to date. If you're managing a large number of systems, you can use something like Ninja to patch them automatically for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. So yeah, Windows patches. I'll tick these as I'm going through them. I've covered that. Remove that. There's multiple Fortinet vulnerabilities let attackers execute arbitrary code. This was covered from cybersecuritynews.com. I'm briefly going to mention this because I seem to mention Fortinet every week. It's badly about the amount of CVEs that these have. For firewalls and things, it's just, yeah, not what you want. So there's a couple of issues there. If you're using Fortinet, make sure they're patched. Suppose you should be patching these on an hourly basis by now. Let me get off that one. So yeah, Fortinet again. There's more issues with hacked WordPress sites being used. Let me just remove this one. A double one there. So hacked WordPress websites are being used for crypto mining and stuff like that. That's nothing new. Fortinet be making saves. Absolutely. For the last, I can't remember now, 3 or 4 weeks, I've only done about 8 of these, but I seem to have mentioned Fortinet every single week and the different articles that I'm referring to. I certainly won't be running their devices, but yeah, make sure they're patched and up to date. Again, with your WordPress, another thing that I mention every single week, just make sure that you're running the latest version of WordPress. All your plugins are up to date. You should probably have somebody maintain a WordPress site if you're using WordPress. They can do use Kali or something for scanning for vulnerabilities on it. You just need to keep WordPress up to date. It was a Bleeping Computer article. Hacker deploys crypto drainers on thousands of WordPress websites. I'm not going to go into the article because, again, it's something I mention every single week. Here's another one. Transition this. Flaws in 90,000 plus LG WebOS TVs let attackers completely take over devices. If you're going to have your smart TVs at home, in the office, again, you need to... I'll cover this. I've already covered how to do VLANs and stuff on both OpenSense and pfSense. And I know I keep referring to those firewalls. But at the end of the day, they are open source. They're free to use. You can also get the paid support versions, which I'd recommend if you are using them. But all your IoT devices, such as TVs, put them on their own dedicated network. So create a Wi-Fi network just for those devices. Connect those devices to that, and then you can block traffic from those devices to your normal LAN. Again, the first in the series, CV 2023-6317, allows attackers to bypass the authorization mechanisms in WebOS. Root access, OS command line injection, unauthenticate command injection. So the vulnerable range of versions and models, including but not limited to WebOS 4.9.7, 5.5.0, 6.3.3, and 7.3. Again, I'll leave you links to these articles, but if you're going to connect these things to the internet, secure them down. At home, we have a dedicated Wi-Fi network for TVs and things, and so they can't access the LAN. Even phones and things can be connected to that, because, I mean, phones are pretty much designed for hostile environments. Multiple Fortinet, I've covered that once. I'm not covering that again. HTTP2 vulnerabilities have been found that if you run web servers, basically allow people just to run DOS attacks against you and make your web servers become unavailable. The easiest way to mitigate these is to check with the manufacturers, check with the software vendors such as Nginx or Apache. Make sure you're on the latest versions. Patching web servers is a thing. If you're going to have service exposed to the internet, protect them. Make sure they're kept up to date. One of the biggest leads to vulnerabilities is not keeping things updated. This has been in the news a lot. Let me transition this. If you use Notepad++, there's an issue with plugins, which is, it's not Notepad++ that's been vulnerable, it's just normal DLL hijacking. But Notepad++, there's, what is it? We got to download Notepad++ into Google, then we get this fake website coming up. So notepad++.org is the official one, and we've got notepad.plus, which is imitating the Notepad+ website. Now, the download links do point to the official Notepad++ website, but these could change at any time. So if you're using Notepad++, make sure you're getting it from the official website. Suspended domains. So hackers weaponize suspended domains to deliver malware payloads. You just have to be careful. Companies that have used domains, like old domains, and moved to new ones, some inadvertently let the domains expire, which allows other people to pick them up. Again, it's just Google's too easy for people to create ads and link malicious sites there, or even old domains. Microsoft are trying to move all their services to one single domain. If they let some of the old domains expire, then you could have issues. So you just need to be careful and make sure you're visiting official sites. There's a fake putty client. If you use putty, I think I covered this last week actually. I'm going to remove that. Yeah, it's 26th of March. But yeah, there's a fake putty client. If you use it, will give you problems. So again, make sure you're just getting the software from the correct websites. If you are using Magento, make sure it's patched and you're running the latest version. Let me pull this up. This is on the Hacker News. So, hackers exploit Magento bug to steal payment from data e-commerce websites. So, Magento's a shop, in essence. And there's a way that attackers have been using Magento to inject a persistent backdoor into e-commerce websites. It's got a CVSS score of 9.1, which is pretty high. And this is improper neutralization of special elements. It was addressed by the company as a part of security updates released on February the 13th, 2024. We're now in April. If you're running an online shop, you should have already had these patches apply. If you haven't, stop watching this, go ahead and apply those patches. Let me get rid of that. We've covered the D-Link 92,000 devices stupidly exposed. This is an interesting one. This was on Bleeping Computer, and I haven't actually tested this, but I'm sure they've reported it right. New Windows driver blocks software from changing the default web browser. Microsoft are just making it harder and harder. Windows 10 was pretty easy to just switch it over to Windows to a different browser. Windows 11 it got a little bit harder, and now they've made it even harder. Thank you for turning up, Gareth. I appreciate the visit. We'll catch up with you soon. So Microsoft is now using a Windows driver to prevent users from changing the configured Windows 10 and Windows 11 default browser through software or by manually modifying the registry. You can still do it, change it through the default setup, through the Windows settings. However, those utilized software to make changes are now blocked. So if you need to change your default browser, you're going to have to go through the Windows settings. So if you use Firefox or Google Chrome and it pops up saying, make this your default browser, yeah, that's not going to be an option anymore. You're just going to have to manually change it yourself. Another good one from Microsoft there. So if you hit in make default browser and it's not doing, you'll have to go in and manually make those settings yourself. Covered the LG TVs. Keep those on. Keep any IoT devices on a separate network and create a firewall rule to block access to your other networks. There's two more things that I should probably mention. Be careful with SVG files. If you're receiving them, if people send you an SVG file, it can execute JavaScript on your machine. If you're not sure what SVG files are, they're basically vector-based graphics that you can resize to without distorting them. So if you receive them, just be careful. Let me pull this up. So beware of encrypted phishing attack with weaponized SVG files. Attackers are now leveraging encrypted phishing emails that utilize scalable vector graphics, SVGs, to execute malicious JavaScript code. The phishing campaign, as most of them, the phishing campaign begins with an email masquerading as a notification for a new voice message. Once you click on the message, they don't like it's saying because of human curiosity. Even when people are doing YouTube videos, they try to title them, so you'll click on them, and that's exactly what they're doing here. Upon clicking the link, the target is taken to a page loaded with a heavily obfuscated HTML data. Basically, they're embedded Java code within the SVG image, so it requires clicking the link, but when you go to the website, you're going to get issues. And that is basically showing the malicious code in the SVG. Again, when it comes down to security, it's just about being careful on what you're doing, making sure people are generally too quick to click links. Just make sure that you know who the email's from before clicking them. If you don't need to receive SVGs, just delete it. And there's only one more that I wanted to cover. That is a new SharePoint vulnerability that's been found. It's a way that's supposed to make sharing SharePoint files convenient. The new technique, covered in SharePoint, enables malicious actors to bypass traditional security measures and exfiltrate sensitive data without standard detection mechanisms. And it basically boils down to the opening app method. So this bit here, the first technique, dubbed opening app method, takes advantage of the SharePoint feature, which allows users to open documents directly in their associated applications. So you can open it in Word, desktop app, Excel, and attackers are leveraging that. So something else to be careful of. I'm just trying to see if this actually patched. So Microsoft has acknowledged the issue and categorized these vulnerabilities as moderate security risks. They have been added to Microsoft's patch backlog program, indicating that a fix is in the pipeline but may not be immediately available. So organizations relying on these services for file sharing and collaboration must be vigilant and proactive for managing access rights to minimize the risk of unauthorized data. So organizations are advised to implement additional detection strategies. Monitoring for unusual patterns of access events, especially those that could indicate the use of an opening app method, is crucial. And keep an eye on your sync activities. So that basically covers what's been highlighted in the news since last week's stream. Just have a quick run through. I don't think there's anything else I need to bring up. Amazon's decided to stop, that's not really a cybersecurity thing, but Amazon's decided to stop paying bonuses to Alexa developers. No, I've covered them, everything that I've got linked. So that covers this week's cybersecurity stuff that you should be aware of. I'm going to end this here because I do have to go out. Thank you for Gareth for joining up. I'll see you in next week's.